John Jay is the author of Federalist No. 2, part of the Federalist movement. This was a group of people back in the early days of America that wanted to make sure the country came together. You can see join or die was their motto, and this was comprised of really three people: John Jay, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison. Many other people were part of the Federalist movement, but these were really the three authors saying that America needed to come together. Now, anti-Federalists were the people saying, slow down here. Pump the brakes. We don't need to create a gigantic new government bureaucracy. Let's think about this first. Recommending a little haste. And we learned about that one yesterday in a prior video about John DeWitt, who wrote Anti-Federalist paper number 1. Today is number 2. And so this is sort of a call and response format that we are going and venturing through. But Federalist number 2 was written by a different author. Alexander Hamilton wrote the first one, and Federalist paper number 2 was written by John Jay. You can see this guy here, and he was somebody who was very interesting. He was elected to serve as a delegate during the First and the Second Continental Congress, and he was debating whether they should declare independence. He was actually originally in favor of reunifying with the British government through a policy of rapprochement. He actually helped write the Olive Branch Petition. We're extending an olive branch over to England, but didn't work. As the necessity and the inevitability of war became evident, Jay threw his support behind the revolution and the Declaration of Independence, and his views became, Wikipedia says, more radical as events unfolded. He became an ardent separatist and attempted to move New York towards that cause. And you can see here, he was actually the first Chief Justice of the United States, so he's got a legal background as well. And so John Jay is the author of Federalist No. 2, and he writes to the people of the state of New York. And remember, he's trying to encourage his fellow citizens of this new country to join on to this new constitution that was just created out of the Constitutional Convention. Federalist No. 2 starts, to the people of the state of New York. When the people of America reflect that they are now called upon to decide a question which, in its consequences, must prove one of the most important that ever engage their intention, the propriety of their taking a very comprehensive as well as a very serious view of it will be evident. When the American people look at this, they're going to see how serious this is. He says, this country and this people seem to have been made for each other. The land and the people are one. And it appears as if it was the design providence that an inheritance so proper and convenient for a band of brethren, united to each other by the strongest ties, should never, he says, be split into a number of unsocial, jealous, and alien sovereignties. Just like the snake, it should never be divided. He says they considered that the Congress, when American people are looking at these issues, he says that they considered that the Congress that went and made these decisions and wrote this Constitution, he says they were comprised of many wise and experienced men. The American people see that. He sees that this Congress that was convened from different parts of the country, they brought with them and they communicated to each other a variety of useful information. He's explaining this convention, that in the course of the time they passed together in inquiring into and discussing the true interest of their country, they must have acquired very accurate knowledge on the head. That they were individually interested in the public liberty and prosperity, and therefore it was not less their inclination than their duty to recommend only such measures as, after the most mature deliberation, they really thought prudent and advisable. He's saying that they went and they deliberated. People from all over the country came together as delegates of the various states. And when they came to the convention center, they knew about their lands. And they were trusted by the people in their lands, in their states, to make decisions that were in their own interests. He's talking about republicanism, about representative government, sending people to do your bidding. And when those people came to this constitutional convention, they put their heads together and they came up with a solution. And they know better than the others. They know what was prudent and advisable. And they're not recommending measures that aren't relevant. He says, it's also worthy of remark that this isn't the first time that we've come to this conclusion. He says not only this Congress, the first Congress, but every succeeding Congress as well as this convention, have invariably joined with the people in thinking that the prosperity of America depended upon its union. To preserve and perpetuate, it was the great object of the people in forming that convention in the first place. And it is also the great object of the plan which the convention has advised them to adopt. The people, as long as they've been around, as long as we've been having congresses and conventions, have all said that unity is critical. And that's why they formed the convention in the first place, so that they could talk about unity. And they come from their lands and they know what they're doing. And America is destined to be here on this land unified. He finishes writing as Publius in a pen name. He says, is it suggested that 3 or 4 confederacies would be better than one? I am persuaded in my own mind that the people have always thought right on this subject, and that their universal and uniform attachment to the cause of the Union rests on great and weighty reasons. He says, I shall endeavor to develop and explain these in ensuing papers. They who promote the idea of substituting a number of distinct confederacies in the room of the plan of the convention seem clearly to foresee that the rejection of it would put the continuance of the Union in the utmost jeopardy. That certainly would be the case, and I sincerely wish that it may be as clearly foreseen by every good citizen that whenever the dissolution of the Union arrives, America will have reason to exclaim in the words of the poet, farewell, a long farewell to all my greatness. Publius. Saying a decision is before you, America. If you don't make the correct decision, might as well just bid farewell to America. And as she sails off into the sunset, her best days behind her, we'll be sitting here, our fellow countrymen, bidding farewell. Bye, America. That's Federalist number 2, John Jay. I'll see you tomorrow.